What happens to all the used tires after an F1 race? If you've ever watched a Formula 1 race, you know how much attention is paid to tires. Tire choice can win or lose a race. But here's something most people never think about. What happens to all those tires once the race is over? Every race weekend, teams use hundreds of tires. Some are pushed to the absolute limit in qualifying and the race itself. Others never even touch the asphalt. But no matter what, every single tire used or even just mounted is taken away at the end of the weekend. And no, they're not dumped into a giant pile somewhere in the desert. They're not collecting dust in a warehouse, and they're definitely not sold to fans as souvenirs. It would be awesome to have an F1 tire in your home. In fact, what happens to them is part of one of the most tightly controlled, environmentally conscious recycling systems in motorsport. Let's rewind a little. Over the course of a season, F1 teams go through around 40,000 tires. That's softs, mediums, hards, intermediates, full wets, all delivered, mounted, and managed by Pirelli, the sport's exclusive tire supplier since 2011. Now that's a lot of money rolling straight to Pirelli. In every Grand Prix, each team gets 13 sets of dry tires per driver, plus 4 sets of intermediates and 3 sets of full wets. And in practice sessions, qualifying, red flags, unexpected weather changes, and strategy shifts, and suddenly the number of tires being used, swapped, and scraped gets overwhelming. And here's the kicker. Even tires that weren't used but were fitted to the rim are considered used. That's right. If a tire has been heated, inflated, and mounted, it can be reused at another race weekend. Not because of performance issues, but for safety. Heat cycles, pressure changes, microscopic damage, it all adds up. At 300 kilometers an hour, you don't want to risk it. So instead, they're all sent back. Pirelli takes responsibility for every single tire that's been brought to the track. Whether it was burned down during a dramatic 2-stop race or never even made it out of the garage, used, unused, scuffed, blistered, or seemingly pristine, all of these tires are collected and carefully packed before being transported to Pirelli's dedicated logistics and analysis hub in Didcot in the UK. This facility is much more than a warehouse. It's a high-tech control center where every tire is logged and scanned using a unique barcode system. That barcode doesn't just identify the tire. It carries the story of everything it experienced, when it was mounted, what car it was on, which session it was used in, and sometimes even the cornering forces and temperatures it endured. Some of these tires undergo further forensic-style analysis. Engineers examine the wear patterns, measure heat exposure, and assess how the rubber compound responded to stress over the course of a stint. This data helps Pirelli refine future compounds, better understand degradation, and provide more accurate predictions to the teams. But no matter how much insight is gained, almost all of the tires share a common fate. Once logged and studied, they're not stored or reused. They're dismounted from the rims, compressed, and shredded, broken down into small pieces called rubber granulate or crumb rubber. From there, the rubber is repurposed into a wide range of industrial uses, a new beginning far removed from the roar of an F1 engine. Once the tires are logged and analyzed, the real transformation begins. At Pirelli's facilities, they're stripped from their wheel rims and then compressed and shredded. The result? Thousands of kilos of raw rubber particles, known as granulate or crumb rubber. But this isn't waste. It's material with a second life waiting. These granules are shipped off, mostly to cement factories, where they're used as fuel to power the kilns. It might sound odd burning rubber to make cement, but the science makes perfect sense. Cement production requires extreme heat, upwards of 1500 degrees Celsius, and traditional fossil fuels like coal are both dirtier and less efficient. Now, burning rubber might sound environmentally disastrous, but here's the twist. When done correctly in these ultra-high temperature environments, the combustion of tire material doesn't produce the toxic smoke you might associate with backyard fires or landfill blazes. Instead, the heat is so extreme that it breaks down the rubber cleanly, leaving behind almost no pollutants. The only byproduct? A fine, non-toxic ash. It's not just recycling, it's smart, sustainable energy. and it's a huge part of F1's ongoing push toward net zero carbon by 2030. And tell you what, that ash doesn't go to waste either. Not every bit of rubber ends up as fuel. Some of it goes into road surfaces, literally helping build the tarmac other cars will drive on. Other portions get repurposed into industrial mats, anti-vibration panels, even children's playground flooring. From roaring around Monaco at 300 kilometers per hour to cushioning a kid's fall on a swing set. That's the full circle journey of an F1 tire. And because these tires are made with some of the most advanced rubber compounds on Earth, they're incredibly durable in their second life too. What's just as fascinating is how controlled the process is. Every tire is barcoded from the moment it's manufactured in Pirelli's factory in Turkey. That barcode is scanned, tracked, and traced from delivery to disposal. The FIA knows exactly which tire was used on which car, at what time, in what session, and when it's done. It gets scanned again, verified and logged before heading out to be recycled. That's not just for sustainability, that's for secrecy. Because the tech inside F1 tires, the compounds, the materials, the layering, is proprietary. Other manufacturers would love to get their hands on a fresh, unused slick tire to reverse engineer it. That's why Pirelli destroys them. Even unused tires that were just mounted get crushed. It's less about the rubber and more about protecting the recipe. Now, let's talk numbers because these aren't your average road car tires. A single Formula 1 tire built to withstand ridiculous forces, extreme heat, and insane speeds cost around $1,900. Multiply that by the hundreds of tires used every race weekend, somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500, and you start to get a picture of just how massive this operation is. Over the course of a full season, Pirelli manufactures more than 40,000 tires for Formula 1 alone. That's over $80 million worth of rubber, used, shipped, recycled, and never seen again by fans. And before you ask, no, you just can't buy one. Not even if it wasn't used. Even tires that have barely touched the tarmac or were never run at all still get crushed and recycled. Why? Safety, branding, and secrecy. Then there's the intellectual property. The compounds inside these tires, how they're built, how they react under stress, how they degrade are some of the most closely guarded secrets in motorsport. Giving them away or letting them fall into the hands of competitors would be like handing over blueprints to the crown jewels. That's why they're destroyed every single time. And yes, it's frustrating for fans. We'd love a used F1 Slick on display in our garage or hanging in the man cave. But if you ever see one online, it's probably not the real thing. Most of what's out there are show tires, manufactured to look the part, but without the tech inside. They're used for displays, pit lane setups, or even wind tunnel testing. But the good news, even if you can't own one, you're probably walking on it, because a chunk of old racing rubber might just be under your feet. In a playground mat, a running track, or even mixed into the road surface outside your house. That's how far Formula 1's recycling effort reaches. From the grid to the ground. It's a surprising end for something designed to live fast and die young. But it's also a clever, circular approach to sustainability, turning high-performance waste into high-value fuel and infrastructure. So yes, your old racing tire might end up helping to build the highway you're driving on. But burning isn't the only future. As Formula 1 continues pushing toward net zero carbon emissions by 2030, both the FIA and Pirelli are investing in greener, more circular solutions. You've probably seen it without even realizing. It could be that bouncy material under your feet at a park or a gym. That might just be a piece of tire that once helped Max Verstappen win a Grand Prix. And then there's the growing push to capture microplastics. The FIA is already piloting technology to collect debris from tires and brakes before it enters the air or water supply, tackling one of the sport's most hidden environmental challenges. If successful, this kind of tech could eventually show up in road cars too, helping reduce pollution on a global scale. So while Formula 1 is all about speed and spectacle, it's also becoming a testbed for environmental innovation. It's easy to look at a pile of used tires and see waste, but behind that, is an entire ecosystem of logistics, science, and sustainability at work. Because in modern F1, a tire doesn't just finish when the race does. It starts a whole new journey, one that's a little slower, maybe, but just as important. They don't end up in a landfill in Kuwait. They don't get dumped in the desert or torched in back alleys. Formula One, together with Pirelli, has built a closed-loop system where every tire has a purpose, even after the racing ends. And in a sport where every gram, every degree, every millimeter counts, this kind of sustainability isn't just a PR move, it's part of the performance. Because the future of F1 isn't just faster, it's cleaner, smarter, and more responsible. So next time you watch a Grand Prix and see tires flying off in the pit lane, think about what happens next. Because those black rings of rubber don't just vanish, they get logged, tracked, scanned, barcoded, dismounted, shredded, analyzed, and transformed. From slicing through apexes at 300 km per hour to becoming playground surfaces or fueling cement kilns, they live a second life far away from the spotlight. If you learned something new or see tires differently now, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around because here we don't just follow what happens on race day, we follow what happens after the race is done.